What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin Jon.
And I'm Thrashmaniac99, special guest!
And we did a post not too long ago. This is a response and a viewer response thing for, well, kind of an age-old thing within metal. When it comes down to metal, rarely do we ever hear someone say, well, I like this band except for the guitars or the drums. It always seems to come down to, well, I like this band, but the vocals. So we decided to do essentially a discussion about that and make a post essentially asking you guys to give us some examples of bands where you like the band, but the vocals, kind of a deal breaker. Now, because of a couple of reasons, namely we get so many of the same bands brought up, instead of going through all the comments this time, I actually kind of tallied this up and kind of broke it up into different tiers. And, well, we still have a lot of bands to cover here, but we're going to start off at, the ones that didn't get as many votes or as many nods, and we're slowly going to work up to the ones that, well, they definitely got a lot. And yeah, we're going to kind of weigh in on these, and this should be a lot of fun.
So the first band we're going to be talking about as far as, quote, bad vocals, we're going to talk about Mortician. Now, to preface, when we were going through all this, it was kind of an all-encompassing thing about slam vocalists, deathcore vocalists, brutal death metal vocalists, but Mortician was the one that came up the most, like a couple times. And, well, as far as Mortician goes, like Will Romer. Personally, for me, when it comes to his vocals, I like him. It fits what Mortician does, which is always about just blunt force trauma, primal, nasty riffs, whether it be fast or groovy. And yeah, his vocals do just kind of fit into like one mode, but it's a good mode. It's all about those like almost cartoonishly low gutturals and growls he does, but it totally fits what Mortician does musically. So I am personally going to disagree with Will Romer being considered a bad vocalist for that principle alone. That it's all about campy fun, and that's what Mortician is at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, 2/3 brutal death metal, 1/3 horror movie samples.
Yeah.
I gotta disagree because honestly, his vocal style fits with the entire style of the music. It's muddy, it's murky, it's heavier than hell. Like, I don't know, I can't picture their sound without just the, going on in the background. It's kind of part of the style, and like, when it comes down to like brutal death metal and deathcore and blah blah blah, like the ultra low vocals, I don't like hearing them all the time, but here and there, like kind of breaking it up a little bit. Like I like hearing like a good, stupid, just, gurgly vocal every now and then, especially on a slam. Makes total sense there. But when it's all the time, it can be a little bit annoying. And yeah, Will kind of sticks with that thing the entire time, but the songs are so short. And then by the time you get into the next one, hey, hold on, I have to listen to 30 seconds of this grindhouse movie where this dude just kills some hooker with a toaster or something. It's broken up enough.
I'm in agreement here as far as the disagreeing that Will Romer is a bad vocalist. First of all, with Mortician, there's a theme that runs throughout everything. It's campy, it's gruesome, it's heavy, it's brutal, it's dark, and it's supposed to be horrifying. It's around horror movies, and, at least he's sticking with one theme. It's not like he's trying to go out of that wheelhouse or trying to do things that he shouldn't for the band. Mortician's supposed to sound like that. So, yeah, I disagree. Next up, we have Sleep Token.
Fuck me, this band.
Now, I'm going to be completely honest here with everybody watching. I have listened to half of a Sleep Token song.
That was probably
not a record, not anything. So if we are saying the vocalist is bad, the guy's kind of all over the map. His cleans are all right. I don't know. I haven't listened to much Sleep Token, and I plan on keeping that way. So I'm gonna have to go neutral ground and just say whatever, because I don't listen to Sleep Token.
I agree. He sucks. I don't like anything about Sleep Token. And I reviewed their last album, and I will never get that time back. His cleans, it sounds like fuckboy crooning, except he's got peanut butter on the roof of his mouth perpetually.
That's fair.
And then the growls, I mean, they're like hyper distorted. I don't like this band's music at all. I think it's boring, and what drove me even more nuts were the fans that kept saying it's transcendent. It's like, dude, you don't even know what that fucking word means. But yeah, no, I agree. This dude's vocals, I'm just not a fan of. You can't even enunciate anything even when it's clean. It's just bad. And
It's just
the bug
hammered
masks
up.
are stupid.
My favorite thing about Sleep Token will always be the fart.
Oh, the
Me
fart.
too.
Just in that
Me
video.
too.
Dude,
Yep.
Dude.
The best thing ever.
hire that dude. Give him a bug mask and let him fart on stage.
Yep.
I'm kind of in between both of them. Like, I've only listened to a tiny bit, and I just mean a literal tiny bit of Sleep Token.
That's too much.
But I'm still going to agree. I can't with that band. I can't with that vocalist. Silence. Just say the words right as they're supposed to be pronounced. Damn it.
Next up, and I was a little shocked by this one, but I guess I kind of get it. Cynic, which most of the time when this band was brought up, and it was brought up at least 2 times, it had to do with the robotic, spacey alien filter that Paul uses on stage, which I've grown to like. Honestly, it's become as much a part of the music and the atmosphere of it. It contributes to it. It almost kind of blends in with the synths and stuff at times.
Yep.
I like it, so I disagree here, but I can understand, with people not liking it, because it is a very prominent feature in the sound, and if you don't want to hear that sort of sound, then it's going to kind of ruin the entire band for you, which sucks because the band is fucking amazing.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But I believe the story is like Paul damaged his vocals early on, and that was kind of a way for him to kind of like recover behind like a bit of a filter, and then they just kind of became part of the sound. But yeah, I disagree. I like the vocals.
I also disagree. I love Paul's vocals, and I think that spacey filter that everyone is talking about here, I think it just adds more to the music. It adds like a different layer to the atmosphere and to the overall experience of it all. And I think his vocals are great. I've never had a problem with Paul Masvidal. Not at all. Not ever. Not in a single moment of listening to Cynic have I been like, man, his vocals suck. I think he's a great vocalist. I disagree.
Yeah, I was kind of debating about this one, and it's not even the robot filter. I've seen clips of Paul singing clean without the filter, and they were so-so to okay. But when it comes down to the sci-fi robot alien filtering, I like it. I do like it because it almost makes Cynic sound like, at least on Focus, death metal for aliens. Especially, that album cover, though.
The alien angels.
More like alien vagina.
We don't know what those look like.
I have
That's
no
not
idea.
fair.
No, with no clue.
They can have multiple ports.
Have you seen the South Park episode? Suck my jag on.
But when it comes down to the alien filters, I like them. So for that reason, I will also disagree because, again, it was trend-setting for the time, especially when Focus came out. It was like, this sounds like from another planet. Ooh, are we being invaded?
I hope so.
So the next band we're going to be talking about is Vector. So, yeah, Vector, technical thrash metal, progressive thrash metal, you could say. Their vocalist, I actually forget his name.
I forget his name. I know he's also the guitarist too.
Yeah.
Principal songwriter. Like he's an integral member.
Yeah, but I can kind of see where people are coming from, especially when you listen to their whole catalog, but most, especially on Terminal Redux. His vocals, in my personal opinion, remind me a lot of Chuck on Sound of Perseverance to an extent. Because they were pretty high, shrill, screaming vocals. But it kind of fits what Vector was doing at that point to like make it sound as chaotic, as complicated, or as unwieldy and unhinged as Terminal Redux was. But I can understand because I'll even admit the super high shrieks of Sound of Perseverance aren't always my favorite, but it fit that album at that time. So I'm actually going to go undecided. This is going to be my first undecided, mainly because there will be times I like it, there will be times I don't. So I'm just going to remain neutral on the whole thing and just go from there.
I am not going to remain neutral. Honestly, the vocals have always been the lone thing that I haven't liked about Vector, and I've been a fan since Black Future. I pretty much bought it just because I looked at the logo and was like, man, these guys better fucking love Voivod. And they do. And strangely enough, Voivod didn't come up on this list once, which that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Way to go, Snake.
Yep.
But yeah, the shrill, just high pitch, constant screaming, and lack of like vocal dynamics, for a band that has tons of dynamics. Like Jesus, the riff work on all their albums is flat out incredible. Like, these guys are amazing musicians, but the vocals have always been kind of a thing where, like, why hasn't this improved over the course where all the music is improved? So, yeah, I gotta agree on this one.
I'm gonna have to go undecided. I haven't heard enough Vector to be able to tell you yay or nay, to be honest. The fact that they've been gone for X amount of time would make sense even more as to why I haven't really heard much of them, because the past 10 years have been loaded with a whole bunch of other things that I have heard. So I'm gonna go undecided. So there you are. Undecided John, making a return.
Hey, you're back again.
Oh my god, no. There
we go.
All right, fail. All right, next up we have Iron Maiden. And from what I understand here, this was specifically targeted more at Bruce. Are you kidding me? Like, did you all just get together and be like, let's put Iron Maiden in the comments, that'll be great.
I could have understood if it was like Blaze.
Look, I'm gonna be honest here. Anybody that's watched our discography ranking knows that I wasn't a big fan of Iron Maiden for a long time, mostly because of the vocals. I understand where you're coming from. I do. I 100% get it. However, after going through and listening to all that, like, it grew on me. So I understand not liking higher register vocals in any music. I understand. For a very long time, that was a giant turnoff for me. But the more I got into Maiden and the more I listened to it, like, I think Bruce's vocals are a perfect fit for that music. And really, I don't think it gets a whole lot better than that. Granted, I'm not sure what the man sounds like today. I haven't watched very many live videos, but I think Bruce Dickinson's a hell of a vocalist. I'm going to have to disagree with you here.
I'm going to disagree overall. While I think that, you know, he's definitely lost some of his range. I mean, he's older now. That's going to happen.
Right.
But in terms of, like, his classic era, dude, Bruce is fucking amazing. Like, and I love Paul Di'Anno too. Paul Di'Anno's 2 albums are awesome. Blaze had 2 albums as well. That's about all I have there.
Right.
But yeah, like, Bruce's vocals are iconic, influential. I guess if you're not into, like, more operatic vocals, because he does have that timbre and his delivery is very dramatic. Yeah. I suppose I could get, like, you know, not liking him. I mean, I suppose I could get not liking any of these. But yeah, this one, I don't know, man. I just can't get behind that, like, because if you like heavy metal in general with, like, clean vocals and, you know, like, all the hallmarks that Iron Maiden is pretty much cemented in that style, I feel like you probably should kind of like Bruce's vocals because they're a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got to disagree.
Yeah, hard disagree right here. I mean, I sing to myself a lot when I'm at home, and Bruce is one of my all-time favorite singing influences. So, yeah, hard disagree right there, and I would argue, a lot of people would argue Bruce is the greatest metal singer of all time. Well, it's between he, Rob Halford, and Ronnie James Dio for sure.
Okay.
Like, all 3 of them are toe to toe to toe when it comes to that crown, but it's really depending on personal preference, obviously. But Bruce is the fucking man, so hard disagree with that.
Next up, and this one is for both vocalists, because both vocalists for this band have been brought up for this one, and that is Cataclysm. So both Maurizio and Sylvain, God, I'm kind of undecided on this one, honestly, because I got into him with Maurizio. I didn't go back and listen to early Cataclysm until much later, and Sylvain is definitely an acquired taste. His frequent vocals, like, the dude, like, narrates paragraphs, and yeah, his delivery, it's odd, and both of them have timing issues, I will say, which drives me nuts. I feel like both of them come in on off beats and fuck me up, like, right from the rip in the songs. But in terms of, like, an overall delivery, I think Maurizio's is solid. And I've seen them live, you know, countless times with Maurizio. He's solid fucking live too. So I'm undecided because I can hear arguments for both, but overall, at least with Maurizio, I still think he's pretty good at what he does. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I've only heard a handful of Cataclysm, mainly the Mauricio stuff, like the last album that came out. I thought it was okay. I don't know, Cataclysm as a whole has always been one of those death metal / melodic death metal bands. It's always kind of escaped me, and I always hear people say, they're not that good, and other people say, oh my god, they're amazing. I will agree, like, off time, a lot of times with both guys. But because I've only heard a handful, I'm going to have to go undecided as well, mainly because I just need to listen to more.
Listen to Crippled and Broken. That song.
Yeah.
I always hear Shadows and Dust is pretty
Oh, yeah.
good.
Oh, dude, that,
yeah.
man.
Shadows are dust. Yeah.
Yep. I, too, am more familiar with the Maurizio side of Cataclysm and less familiar with the Sylvain side, although I have heard some early Cataclysm, and that guy was definitely not my favorite, per se. But, I mean, I've seen Cataclysm multiple times as well, and Maurizio not only does a good job live, but he does a good job on the albums. Like, he's got a good, powerful delivery. He enunciates fairly well. I will admit that timing is an issue. I don't understand that. Maybe the click was not available in his headphones at any given time during recording, or live for that matter. But as a vocalist, I think he's solid at what he does. So I will definitely admit that Sylvain is a acquired taste, and I'm not the world's biggest fan here. But I will have to disagree because Maurizio's a solid vocalist.
All right, for the next band, and I'll just go ahead and preface this. I'm going to say a hard disagree on this one. Judas Priest, and we believe we're targeting Rob Halford, at least in the comments.
Someone did bring up Ripper.
Okay.
But
we can talk about
whatever.
We can talk
I
about
disagree.
Yeah,
I fucking disagree.
Yep, I also disagree.
Yeah,
So get out.
I mean, Halford's the metal god for a reason. Not only because he brought in the image, but brought in the voice of heavy metal. I mean, yeah, you got Ozzy before him, but in terms of like bringing in a showmanship, a bombast, range, it's Halford. And yeah, Ripper, when we talk about Tim Owens, yeah, he can be... Yeah.
He was in the band.
He was in the band. I mean, I'm not saying he's bad. I think he's solid.
Okay.
Solid on certain songs.
In comparison?
Other songs, but in comparison to Halford,
Yeah.
it's no comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just going to say hard disagree. But to the people that said Halford, why? Come on.
Well, all right. I know that one of them said that, and this person said they were a metal fan for years. They just never got into the high-pitched vocals, which, sure, I can maybe understand that, but also, no.
Just no.
Yeah, dude, stay in class. Like, I can't have that album without those wails. Those wails are so well placed. And my God, like, the power behind them. Like, Rob Halford's just a beast all around. Like, his stuff in Fight's fucking awesome, too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I strongly disagree. But Rob Halford is among one of my favorite vocalists. I would actually take Rob Halford over Bruce Dickinson. There, I said it.
You can't go wrong.
You don't have to say that, too.
Right.
But I am.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a strong disagree for me as well. Now, once again, I will preface this by saying if you would have asked me 6 years ago, before Thralls of Metal was a thing, what I thought of Rob Halford's vocals, I would have been like, I'm just not into the higher register. But he's so goddamn good at it. Like, his voice is perfect.
Even his low range is fantastic,
all of it,
too.
dude. He is such an incredible vocalist, and to be able to hit those notes, and dude, come on.
I mean, you listen to a
Come
song
on.
like Dreamer Deceiver off Sad Wings of Destiny, you get the best of both sides.
Yeah, man. Like, come on.
And a
like,
good pop hook every now and then, too. Like, dude, Head Out on the Highway, dude.
Yeah.
It's like one of the
Yeah.
best driving songs ever.
Yep. I sympathize with those people that don't like the higher register vocals. I get it, because it took me forever to get into it. But once I got into them, and once I finally got to Judas Priest, I was like, man, this guy is the best at what he does. Probably one of the best singers in metal. Period. All right. Up next, Deftones. There's a lot of ways you could take this. I'm going to say disagree now. If you would have asked me early on, because let's be honest here about Chino, okay? So you start off with Adrenaline, and none of the lyrics made any sense, but he had a good, screaming delivery, bark. He didn't growl. We weren't there yet in metal, but like, during that time period, Chino was a little powerhouse. And then, like, you get to Around the Fur, and the guy still couldn't really sing, but he tried. He crooned well, he still had a good scream. But yeah, as you get later into Deftones, up into the current, he's a great singer. He is finally able to hit notes. And I'm going to disagree, but I can get where you're all coming from, depending on what era of Deftones you dive into.
I mean, I disagree. I love Deftones, and actually, large in part is Chino's vocals. Like the kind of contrast with like the heavy down-tuned riffs and all that atmosphere, and these breathy, I'm really trying to fuck your girlfriend vocals.
I mean,
They work. And then you get like his, shrill hardcore screams every now and then. I really like what he does. And even outside of Deftones, like Crosses, I think that's also...
Dude, that last Crosses
Yeah.
record was tits.
And you get like a chance to hear like more of those isolated vocals behind like, electronic stuff too. It hits differently. Like he's got a love for a lot of like 80s pop and such. And I know for whatever reason he likes the Smiths, but Morrissey sucks. We'll just throw that on the list. But yeah, he does a really good job with the range that he has, and there's a lot of emotion and atmosphere communicated with it. So I disagree. I love Chino.
This one's harder for me because, well, I'm not the world's biggest Deftones fan. It's been kind of a slow, gradual thing. Like, I've listened to a couple of albums here and there. Chino, as a vocalist, I think he's good at what he does, which, does have a little bit of that, like, fuckboy energy to it, but... And part of it I can get annoyed at, especially when it's like, that's the one metal song a lot of girls I know really like. It's like
a pelvic thrust in the eardrum.
Yeah, it's like... Maybe check out Faith No More sometime. But I digress. I will disagree about Chino being a bad vocalist. I do think he's good at what he does from what I've heard, especially in recent years. So yeah, I'm with these guys.
Next up is, well, a band that has more problems than just bad vocals. Inquisition. I have been a fan of Inquisition's music for... a number of years. I think they have some like really solid albums musically. Vocally, just kind of like the standard croaked black metal vocals. I know he's like a little bit deeper every now and then. I don't know. I've never been like a huge fan of the vocals, so I'll probably agree. I will also say that this band, again, has more problems than just bad vocals.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go that much into it because I don't want to get fucking flagged by YouTube for talking about exactly what the issue is, but I will say fuck Dagon.
I mean, when it comes to his vocals, he just sounds like he's trying to do a better version of Abath at times, and it kind of ruins the charm. Like, the reason why Abath is so well loved for his vocals is because there's a raw grittiness behind it, whereas this guy, he's just trying to make it sound more polished and more technique involved. And it's like, yeah, it's cool you can add more technique to it, but at the same time, you're taking away from the charm of what Abath was doing with those, like, croaking frog kind of vocals. I'm going to agree on this.
I'm going to go undecided. I haven't listened to enough Inquisition to be able to tell you yay or nay. Simple as that. From listening to what these guys have to say, I still may not. I may listen to it for the music and pretend that the vocals don't exist. I'm not 100%. I'm undecided. There you have it.
All right, and then the next band we're going to talk about is Volbeat. So I'm going to go ahead and preface that I've not listened to a lot of Volbeat. I've heard a song here and a song there. I do think Michael's vocals, though, I enjoy them for what they are. It's kind of like this metal, blues, boogie kind of style. Almost like if you were trying to mix, like, James Hetfield, maybe like the mid to low range Lane Staley with a little bit of rock and roll boogie to it. I think it suits the music because, after all, Volbeat's basically, I call them boogie metal. Because you can shake your ass and bang your head if you want to at the same time. So personally for me, I'm going to disagree. I think he's good at what he does, and I enjoy what he does.
Honestly, I disagree. I think he is good at what he does, and yeah, he sits somewhere between like Keith Caputo and I would say
the one I was saying.
Yep.
Mike Ness.
Yep.
Like, I like the rockabilly swagger. His vocal cadences are fun. The music is, it's kind of got that up tempo sort of like Metallica meets the Stray Cats sort of fucking vibe. It's fun, and his vocals are well suited for it. So I really can't knock it. Like, I haven't been like a huge Volbeat fan in a number of years. Like, I really dug their earlier stuff, and then I just kind of like fell out of favor with him. But yeah, I don't think he's a bad vocalist.
I don't think he's a bad vocalist either. I'm just not a Volbeat fan. I'm just not. I've tried to get into him over the years, and here's always been my take. We have Life of Agony already. We already have Keith Caputo. I mean, we don't really anymore. I don't know.
We do again.
We do again. I don't know. But the fact that he sounds like Keith Caputo pretty much like dead on has just taken me away from Volbeat. And granted, I realize that there's probably more to Volbeat. I just have always kind of passed them on. I've listened to the first record, and I was like, meh, all right, whatever. As far as the vocals are concerned, like, he's a decent vocalist, so I would have to disagree, but I just don't like Volbeat.
I mean, to be fair, Keith Caputo doesn't even sound like Keith Caputo. Even when Keith Caputo came back on Broken Valley, he sounded more like Scott Weiland than Keith Caputo.
Well,
but still, yeah, I don't think the vocals are necessarily a deal breaker here.
Next up, we have System of a Down. I will hardcore disagree. I don't even know why this is on the list, dude. I don't. Serj Tankian is amazing from the very beginning, dude. Even from that first record, it was like hardcore vocals and screams and growls and like opera singing, and like he does what he does well. I think Serj is an excellent singer. I will hardcore disagree. Through all the records, I'm a giant System of a Down fan, and not once have I ever been like, man, these vocals snorkel assholes. Like, no, dude, he's good. Serj is good at what he does. I disagree. I don't know why it's on the list.
I am going to agree with John and disagree. High five, bro.
All right.
Hey, we nailed it the first go! Yes! I mean, I love Serj as a whole when it comes to vocals. Like, the guy could do it all. He can go high, he can go low, he can scream. But yeah, and I'm a big System of a Down fan as well. I have all their stuff back at home. Yeah, hard disagree.
I'm also going to disagree too. But I can understand why some people don't like his vocals. They are kind of odd and kind of clownish and silly at times.
Acquired taste.
I mean, Sugar was a lead-off single, and I know a lot of people are like, dude, what the fuck is going on with this? Like, is this fronted by an evil clown? Like, close. He is wearing makeup in the video.
Very, very close.
Yes. But I got into like stuff like Dead Kennedys and stuff before this. So like listening to like Jello sing and listening to Serj sing, it's kind of the same thing. They got that weird quivering vocal, but Serj is capable of more melody. And the fact that he was able to harmonize with Darren, who has a kind of unique voice of his own too.
Yep.
There are unique just melodies that this band can generate vocally that I really love. Like, I mean, dude, when Chop Suey dropped, everyone was fucking singing that song, especially the back part. Like that huge melody at the end.
Right.
Yeah, I can't necessarily hate him, but I can understand why some people don't like him because it's just an odd vocal delivery in itself. But yeah, I'm not one of those people. I disagree. Serj is awesome, and Darren's pretty damn good too. Next up, and this one I was hoping was going to show up on the list because I get a chance to make fun of him. Avenged Sevenfold. I have never been much of a fan of M. Shadow's vocals at all, and I used to be a big fan of this band. Like Waking the Fallen, I thought was an absolutely killer album, but I thought his growls sucked, and then I heard him saying, I was like, geez, that sucks almost worse. And my main thing is, he sounds like he's grunting to take a dump with, like, every word he says. Like, dude, this dude's had a diet of nothing but cheese and meat and not an ounce of fiber. I can't do that. Like, it just drives me nuts that they decided, hey, we're going to do all clean vocals now with this dude's poop grunt voice. I don't know. Like, I would rather have him growl shittily. It's never been good. Like, in my opinion, I've never been a fan of M. Shadow's vocals. So, yeah, I agree.
I agree as well. The poop grunt thing, you got me. And I've always thought that too. And I'm just like, why? And don't get me wrong. Early Avenged Sevenfold, their music was killer. I loved early Avenged Sevenfold, but the vocals I've never liked. I'm just like, just take him out. Just do an instrumental project. Find somebody else. Grab somebody out of the crowd. I don't know. The poop grunt thing is spot on. I totally agree.
I'm putting myself on a desert island with this one, aren't I? Because unlike these two bastards, I'm a big Avenged Sevenfold fan. If it wasn't for them and Metallica, I wouldn't be a metalhead. That goes because I'm much younger than these guys. So
rub it in.
Right.
Yeah. Matt's high register, I will agree, especially on more recent albums. Yes, they do sound like poop grunts. I will agree there. But his mid to low range, I actually don't mind, especially when you get him in a more tuneful, more sullen mood. Like, take, for example, the song So Far Away, dedicated to the Rev. I really like his vocals on that song. And also, I will go ahead and say, his vocals on Waken the Fallen, hands down, in my opinion, across both ranges, was the best he ever sounded. His screams, I thought, were decent. His cleans were far better than as they do now. Granted, he was younger back then, and his voice has been weathered over the years.
Probably
obviously.
was eating some salads and granola, too.
Yeah, that could be a case, too. So, this really tugs at the heartstrings, because I love the band as they are. I'm going to go undecided. I can't go one way or the other, because there are times I love his vocals. There are times where I'm like, lay off the higher register and just stick to the mid to lows. So the next band we're going to be talking about is Texas's own Watchtower. Of course, technical, progressive thrash metal. I mean, we mostly talk about them for Ron Jarzenbeck. He is a phenomenal guitarist, but when it comes to vocals, they've had a couple different ones, but the one vocalist that I'm the most familiar with, just simply because of the resume, their original vocalist, Jason McMaster. He's also in bands like Dangerous Toys, Broken Teeth, Evil United, Igniter. Like, he's all over the map when it comes to metal subgenres and bands. However, his vocals, and then to a lesser degree, there are other vocalists who I forget the name of off the top of my head, but yeah, it's like super, super high, like almost cartoonish, but when you get him outside of that high register, he's a pretty solid vocalist. So when it comes to Watchtower, particularly Jason McMaster, I'm gonna agree. I'm not the biggest fan of like the mega high wails he's doing on top of this technically challenging thrash that's going on with Watchtower's music.
I think they didn't like specify which vocalist. In fact, I saw one just say Watchtower flat out, and one of them did specify the other vocalist. So I guess you can baseline say both, but I would agree. From what I've listened to by Watchtower, which I believe I have their first album, and I've listened to other stuff, and I believe one of them did an album with Spastic Inc. years ago too. I've never been big on the vocals. They are very high pitch at times, kind of shrieky, a little pitchy. Yeah, like honestly, my main draw for that band is the riff work, the complex songwriting. That band is insanely talented whenever they decide to get like back together or tour or do another show. It's been a while. But yeah, I'd probably agree. Like the vocals never been my thing with them. It's kind of like the same thing with like Vector. Kind of similar.
Gonna have to also agree, the vocals have never been my thing for Watchtower. It's always been the music, and it's mostly been the riff work, because Ron Jarzenbeck has always been an incredible guitarist and will always be an incredible guitarist. Well, I've gotten into higher vocals over the years, like that's up there, and I don't understand why you would do that over, again, such technically proficient music, but I mean, to each their own, but I'm going to go ahead and agree that the vocals are not the draw for Watchtower whatsoever.
Yeah, you can just listen to Blotted Science. And
Right,
yeah,
right, exactly.
If you want to listen to Ron without vocals, there you go.
Next up, we have Nevermore. Warrell Dane is a great vocalist. Was a great vocalist. The rest, well, Warrell Dane. Initially, when I got into Nevermore, it was because of Jeff Loomis, because Jeff Loomis is an incredible guitarist. And once again, while the higher register vocals took a minute to grow on me, they became a huge part of why I listened to Nevermore. I'm curious to see, now that Nevermore is making a comeback, I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Have they released anything about their vocalist yet?
No. I'm campaigning for the dude from Silver Talon, though. I think that guy could do it.
I would campaign for John Aldara from Barren Earth and Yotun.
That's fair enough. But yeah, we'll see what happens to Nevermore when they come back. But Warrell Dane was a hell of a vocalist. And yeah, rest in peace, good sir. So I'm going to disagree.
I'm going to disagree as well. It took me a little bit to get into him. You know, he was kind of like Bruce Dickinson in a way, you know, that very dramatic delivery, but his was way more like dark and sinister. Like, you know, hearing songs like Poison God Machine, Seven Tongues of God, that was probably the first song I ever heard, and I was like, dude, that breakdown is sick. This guy's like crooning, but it's, I don't know, it sounds evil and dark. I really got into that, and I've been a fan of Nevermore for years, and honestly, they're a fun band to come back to. I can see why people don't like them. You know, if you're not a fan of that more operatic style, it can sound overblown and over the top, but I think it absolutely fits. And yeah, Warrell Dane fucking ruled. So yeah, disagree.
Yeah, this is another hard disagree. I mean, Warrell Dane's range was top to bottom, impeccable. Like, even going back to his work in Sanctuary, where that's really where he got Worrell at his highest, and it's somewhat comparable to Watchtower, but unlike, say, Jason McMaster, he was able to incorporate a lot more to his vocals, even in the higher register. Obviously, with Nevermore, he got more dramatic, a little more bombastic with his range. Like, not as much the highs, more the mid to low stuff you hear him do, and they're fantastic. And, man, I still can't believe he's no longer with us, but yeah, hard disagree yet again.
All right, we're now into the next bracket, which I broke this up to once they got 5 to 3 votes. And then the next one will be 5 plus. So the first one that came up, and it did come up quite a bit, especially towards the end, Violence, which I 100% agree. I have never been a fan of Sean Killian's manic wailing. I also never got why he wore a fucking turtleneck in a lot of the fucking early band photos. But Violence's strong point were always the riffs. Phil Demmel, Rob Flynn, their strength was that they were fiery, they were intense, and then you just had this lunatic shouting off key the entire time, and it kind of ruins it. Like, honestly, I think his best vocal performance was on that last EP because, well, thankfully his top range, I think, was taken away from him, so he had to work with a little bit smaller wheelhouse. So yeah, I definitely agree with that one. That's kind of the only thing I don't like about Violence.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Although I will admit, while I agree, I do find it kind of entertaining just to laugh. Because it's like, that's basically the delivery.
Yeah.
But yeah, musically, some of the best Bay Area thrash you can ever listen to. Like Eternal Nightmare, I would put up there as one of the best thrash debuts of all time. Musically, that is. Vocally, yeah, Sean... not really my thing either, so yeah, agree.
I'm gonna go ahead and agree as well. The music is awesome. The vocals are not awesome. I will agree with Levi here. They are laughably funny. And if I want to really laugh at some vocals, if someone says, hey, pick me on a bad vocal band, I'm gonna easily turn on Violence as one of them. And I don't understand. I don't understand why you do that. And I furthermore don't understand why they continued to hold on to him as they wrote such great music. Why would you do that?
He is kind of the central figure.
Violence is one of those bands where I wish I could take the vocals out of it and listen to the music. I can't, but I wish I could.
Yeah. So, Eternal Nightmare, instrumental version. Let's make that happen.
All right, and then the next band, we're talking Anthrax, specifically Joey Belladonna. Now, this one was a giant head-scratcher, in my opinion, because whenever I would have seen Anthrax, I thought it would have been for Neil Turbin on Fistful of Metal, which, that album, vocals, inconsistent, but again, kind of like Violence. It's fun, I guess. It depends on your preference and taste. But with Joey Belladonna, he, in my opinion, is the voice of Anthrax. Yeah, John Bush, he was great in his own right, but to me, he came in at the wrong time. Arguably. Sound of White Noise was good, but after that...
Yeah.
But Joey, I always loved his vocals. Even now, his vocals still are great, but in a different style. I would say back in the 80s and early 90s, he reminded me a lot of Steve Perry from Journey. Quite a bit in terms of his high range and the emotion he puts in behind Anthrax musically as well, which you wouldn't think that those vocals would fit with thrash metal, but he somehow makes it fit, and that's what always made Anthrax such a unique band as a whole. Nowadays, ever since he came back in 2010, oddly enough, he kind of sounds a little closer to Ronnie James Dio a little bit, especially if you hear Anthrax cover Neon Nights. It's almost identical to Dio. So it's he goes from sounding like one legendary vocalist to another legendary vocalist at now, 64, 65 years old?
Yeah.
And he's still belting it out. So this is another hard disagree.
Hard disagree, too. Now, one of the commenters on this one specifically brought up saying, oh yeah, my first foray into Anthrax was Sound of White Noise with John Bush. And I can totally understand hearing John Bush first and then hearing Joey. Yeah, all right, there could be a little bit of a, well, I don't know if this is my dude. But I got into him with Joey, and I also love John Bush. Like, Armored Saint fucking rules, too. But Joey, again, I think he's honestly one of the best vocalists still doing this stuff. Even now. He's wisely dropped down his range, but he hasn't lost that much. And his stage presence is
He still has power.
great.
He still has power.
100%. His delivery is solid. I mean, he's just a killer singer. I mean, yeah, it might not be like the best fit for some, like, oh, this is like raging thrash, and you get this very operatic power metal-y singer, whatever. I don't know. For some odd reason, for me, it's always worked. I've been a fan since I was in fucking high school. And yeah, a hard disagree. Joey fucking rules.
I have to hard disagree as well. And especially seeing them live. Now, granted, it's been a couple years since we've seen them live. We saw him in 2015 with Motorhead, about a month before Lemmy died, actually. And he crushed it live. Dude, absolutely crushed it. He was hitting all the notes. It sounded great. You know, depending on where you came into Anthrax, much like these guys said, I could see where you might have some issues. But, like, he's really solid. And the fact that he can still belt it out live is amazing. And especially in his upper years now. Again, I can preface by saying I wasn't always into upper range vocals, but Joey, he belts it out, and he does it really well, and his stage presence is phenomenal, and yeah, I disagree.
Yeah, someone passed him a joint on stage, and he fucking took a quick rip and then went right back to it.
Threw it out in the crowd, and he was like, come on, yeah!
Fucking professionalism right there.
Yep. Next up, we have Periphery, and I agree. I'll just say that right off the bat. I got into Periphery at the beginning of their career, and right off the bat, I knew that Spencer's vocals were not for me. In fact, I have the first Periphery record as an instrumental. I also have the second Periphery record as an instrumental. Even though I will say over the years, even their music has kind of taken a dive. But early on in Periphery, yeah, I just can't. He just sounds like a whining cartoon character. I will admit that I think the one and only time I might have been slightly into his vocals was on the second Periphery record, because he wasn't quite hitting that whiny, like, little girl voice that he has. The guy can scream, but thousands of vocalists across the planet can scream. I don't like the vocals in Periphery. I never have. I probably never will.
Yeah, no, I'm a hard agree on there, dude. Spencer sounds like an auto-tuned squeaky toy that a dog is literally chomping on right by your ear. It's that emo bleeding that made for Warped Tour bullshit. And I know there were some people like, no, they don't sound Warped Tour. Horseshit. He fucking sang for First for Last for a little bit. He's on one of their albums. So, yeah, it's that. I just can't get into it. Like, he sounds like, you know, the American voiceover for a fucking anime that no one should ever fucking watch. I don't like it. It ruins the music. But here's the thing. The music, I would agree, is kind of dropped off. And, you know, probably with some reason. Like, I know Misha's pretty much got his endorsements and such. Like, he doesn't need to do Periphery anymore. And I feel like that's kind of shown in the last couple of albums. You know, yeah, they're technical. There's a lot of breakdowns. There's a lot of, you know, clever-ish writing, but it doesn't feel, I don't know, like their heart's in it. Like, it just feels like they're just writing breakdowns.
Misha's always had his endorsements. Even early on, even before Periphery with Bulb, he was still, you know, a pretty solid and incredible guitarist, and he's been endorsed since the beginning, so he doesn't necessarily need to do it either. None of those guys, dude. All those dudes in Periphery are very talented people.
Yeah, they just like race Lamborghinis with fucking Tosin now.
Yep, but I mean, vocally, just no.
Hard agree. I mean, the moment that I got turned off by Spencer's vocals was when they covered Metallica 1. And hearing those vocals on one of my favorite songs of all time, oh my god, I felt like I just wanted to take this chair and throw it out the window. I was so upset.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, I've heard it. It is.
Oh my god.
It is abominable.
Why?
It is absolutely abominable to take one of the best metal songs of all time and put those kind of vocals on top. I could go on forever about this, but I'm not going to lose brain cells more than I already have in my life. So I'm just gonna say hard agree. Spencer sounds like he just sounds like Blink-182 singing over Meshuggah.
Yeah.
What in the ever-loving hell?
Yep.
Next up, and all right, this person just said Chris Barnes. And, well, I mean, it was multiple people that said Chris Barnes, but they didn't necessarily specify whether it was 6 Feet Under or Cannibal Corpse. I would assume it probably wasn't Cannibal Corpse. You know, I know that there's some division in the fan base, and Corpse Grinder's a better vocalist. I'll just go ahead and say that.
Yeah.
But if we're talking like purely 6 Feet Under, then yes. Barnes's vocals are roached. The E noises, my God, might have been like some of the heartiest laughs I've ever heard.
Oh
when I
my
first
God,
dude! Like I almost passed out. I laughed so hard. It's like holding an angry cicada in his palms and putting it right up against the fucking mic. I don't get that. And like, all right, early Cannibal Corpse with Barnes, fucking awesome.
Agreed.
Love that shit. Those
agreed.
first 4 albums are amazing. They pretty much put me on the path towards death metal along with Obituary and shit like that. But man, his vocals are trash. And I know like there are a lot of people out there saying, well, you've heard him live on this tour and he sounds great. And then I listened to it and was like, what is your definition of the word great? Because if we're talking about like the grating cheese, then yes, no, they're grating. He doesn't sound that great. I know that he's done like kind of a little bit of a tour here in terms of like, you know, doing interviews and being more approachable because he's had a lot of like get the fuck off my lawn energy for quite a while. And you know, like I root for him to have like some successes and such. Like I don't like flat out hate him. And again, he was like large in part one of the reasons why I got into death metal in terms of like death metal vocals. But his vocals are shot. So I'm gonna agree. Yeah, he's not a great vocalist anymore.
I am also going to agree. I mean, again, first 4 Cannibal Corpse albums, he was amazing. But, yeah, 6 Feet Under, if you want a good laugh, just listen to any 6 Feet Under album, really, ever.
Cannibal Corpse, disagree. 6 Feet Under, agree. I think that's about all we have to say. His 6 Feet Under performances, I don't get it. Nightmares of the Decomposed, that was our highest viewed video ever. And I thank you all for that. But man, I don't get it. So Cannibal Corpse, disagree. 6 Feet Under, agree, and that's all I'm gonna say.
I almost want to see Chris Barnes get into an argument with Krusty the Clown, just to hear how stupid that would be.
You know what's interesting is I watched a live video of the most recent tour that 6 Feet Under was on.
Same.
All the bands, I watched all the bands, and I have to admit there were parts during the 6 Feet Under set where I was like, it's not the worst thing ever. I don't know if anybody else, I know you saw it, right? So, like, there were parts where I was like, it's not the worst thing ever. But, like, overall, you can tell, even live, you can tell that his voice is shot.
Yeah.
Even when he talks, you can tell his voice is shot.
Dude, he sounds like both of Marge's sisters.
Yeah, yep, at once.
And then the next band we're going to be talking about Demolish. So, legendary Finnish avant-garde technical death metal band, Nespith, top to bottom. Amazing!
One of the greatest albums of all time.
I fucking love that album.
Yeah, it's so everywhere. It's everywhere, and especially Antti Bowman's vocals. So, yeah, this was one of the big head scratchers for me. Okay, I guess it depends on your preference of death growls or death metal vocals as a whole. But yeah, I personally love Antti Bowman's vocals. They sound like a burping bullfrog, which we were talking earlier. How the hell does he do it? Like, I've seen rumors that he, like, inhales when he does them.
That's the prevailing one I've heard.
That's, like, the big one that we've heard a lot. I don't know. I always like the comical kind of side of death metal vocals at times. And this one, while you could say it's comical, it's also brilliant, I would say. Because,
innovative.
Yeah, because I would argue Antti Bowman, in terms of guttural vocals, one of the best, for sure. And it's because of his unique delivery. So for this, it's another hard disagree.
I'm a big disagree here too. Honestly, the vocals, it matches the weirdness of the music. And even if you look at it in terms of like his phrasing, his cadences, even how the lyrics are structured, like just the way he does things is just very different. Like there's songs on Nespite that are essentially just a short story that involve all sorts of weird things. I don't remember specifics, but I remember poop and tentacles were brought up in a couple of songs, and they have ridiculous song titles. It's all intended to be over the top. And they do that not only in their themes, but the music, the vocals, the atmosphere. Yeah, I can't picture Demolish sounding any other way, and that is large in part to Antti Bowman's awesome vocals. And if they are intended to be humorous, well, that works because he's very humorous live. If you ever get a chance to see Devilish live, that dude will crack jokes in between songs, and he has brilliant dry delivery. Like, holy fuck, he had the crowd going.
Yeah, it's also a strong disagree for me. When we did that retro review, I gave that album 5 stars, and I meant it. Seeing them live, again, if you guys ever get the chance to see Demilich live, and I realized that that's not a frequent thing at all, and we got pretty goddamn lucky. His vocals are nothing short of brilliant, I believe. Perfectly match the odd music. The Bullfrog stuff, like, I don't understand it. And I've seen him do it live, and I don't get it. I don't know how he does it, but grossly entertaining. There's not anything really out there like it. Maybe we're gonna get a little close in the next band we talk about, but
Maybe.
but man, I think it's great. I think it perfectly fits what the band has going on. It's great. I don't understand.
How the hell he does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they sound so wet at times.
No,
in
dude,
fact, they're so wet, I'm wet right now.
We'll throw that chair out.
Yeah. It's like doing death growls and Jello.
It's like he chugged maple syrup before he did all of his vocal takes.
So next up, we have Gudalax.
Behold the Pooh sculpted logo.
Right. We're about to see these guys at MDF. So, and this is something I definitely want to see. Just to say that I've seen it. Yeah, like...
That's every Gudalax song.
Yep. Like, I'm gonna have to disagree because much like Demilich, here's another band where you don't get vocals like this. Like, these are extremely unique, and as bad as they are, they're also really great in that aspect. But vocally, there's nothing like that. There just isn't. And so to say that that's bad, being that they're a lone ranger in that aspect, how can you say it's bad when that's really the only band that do that?
I've heard bands do like a snort take in a song.
Yeah.
But in terms of making that the vocal style, because I don't know if there's actual words. I don't care, though, because this band bases a lot of their themes around poo and wearing hazmat suits. And they're intended to be goofy and stupid.
Yep.
This is the perfect vocal for it.
Right.
So, I mean, I also gotta disagree because it's the band itself. Like, this is the only appropriate vocal take for them. I think that's intended to be a joke. The music itself is fun. Like, lots of, like, just old school two-steps and, like, grindy fits and sloppy, disgusting fucking death metal riffs. Sign me up. And it's stupid and they're kind of making fun of shit. Like, literally. Yeah. Fuck it. Why not? I disagree. I think this band is brilliantly dumb.
It's like the psycho stick of brutal death metal.
Yeah, there you go.
Know?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say I've never listened to these guys.
Oh,
you should.
But judging from what these guys have said musically, I think I would dig this.
You should.
I probably will now that we've talked about them, but I don't know. It's like...
Listen to it while scrubbing your toilet.
Yeah, I
It'll make total
mean,
sense.
songs about shit. I mean, who knows? Maybe
Listen to them after taco night. I just had the stomach flu. I should have played this in the background for the last 3 days of that.
Was that the vocals or my asshole making that noise?
Not 100%.
But I'm actually going to go undecided just for the fact I've never listened to them. I will, mark my words.
I might be picking up some of their albums at MDF. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
I'm definitely going to get a shirt.
Next up, and this one came up quite a bit, and kind of an obscure band. Like, I know, like, the diehards in terms of, like, depressive, suicidal, black metal. This is one of the bands that gets brought up. Silencer, which I have only listened to snippets of this band, and I'll be honest, I don't like the band itself. So the vocals with a lot of the shrieking, groaning. I mean, all right, it's totally great for the atmosphere because it's like the soundtrack of someone killing themselves, I guess, repeatedly. But I'm gonna kind of agree. But again, I'm not like the biggest fan. But again, I've only listened to like a handful of tracks, and honestly, that was kind of enough for me. In terms of like the depressive stuff, like I gravitate more to bands like Nun and shit like that. But
Forgotten Tomb.
Yeah, Forgotten Tomb's good. They're a little bit different now, but yeah, their first one is really solid depressive black metal. But yeah, just not a fan of this one.
and I've heard stories that supposedly a lot of the vocals are just the screams of like mental illness patients, which it's like, why? So just off that principle alone, I gotta agree. Moving on.
I'm gonna have to go undecided. I've never listened to the band, although hearing the descriptors here from these two fine gentlemen, I may check it out just to hear it. Like, I like really disturbing music.
Oh, this is it.
I'm sure it is. So I'm gonna check it out. So I'm gonna go middle of the road here. But yeah, I've never listened to them.
You should play Silent Hill in the dark while listening to some Silencer.
That is nightmare fuel.
Oh, you got
ladies
this.
and gentlemen.
I believe in you.
All right, and then the next one, talking about the mighty Mayhem, specifically Attila Chiar. So I'm going to drop a controversial take right now. I honestly think Attila is the best vocalist Mayhem has ever had. Even more than Dead, even more than Maniac or Messiah, any of those guys. For the principal reasoning that Attila is very experimental with his vocals. Like, you even go back to his stuff in the band from Hungary, Tormentor, where it was more straightforward black metal vocals for the most part. And Attila's talked about in interviews that when he got to do De Mysteriis Dom Satanas, he wanted to experiment more and not do what Dead was already had done in the past. He wanted to carve out his own niche, which I totally respect him for it. And you listen to the vocals on De Mysteriis, they're some of the most innovative black metal vocals you can hear. Like, lots of, dare I say, throat singing in his delivery. Accurate. And those like chants to the elder ruins again. I really, really like that because it just adds another layer of evil on top of this already evil album. And then even as you go along, whenever he came back to Mayhem on Ordo Ad Chaos, and then all the way up to Esoteric Warfare and Damon, it's like he's still experimenting with his voice. So I'm going to have to disagree. I think Attila is the voice of Mayhem, at least in my personal opinion. Yeah, I know Dead, and he'd be up there too, but I go more towards experimentation rather than the prototypical stuff when it comes to black metal.
I like Maniac too. Dude,
Maniac's
Chimera
wild.
Is an underrated album.
He is wild.
But I would have to disagree with Attila being a bad vocalist. Honestly, the dude's, again, his experimentation, I think, is kind of key. And you get a lot of vocal dynamics, like him being able to almost change the atmosphere with his vocals. Those kind of like almost like Gregorian style chants. The throat singing is kind of the thing that I think he's really known for. But he enunciates a lot of that stuff well.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I had to say that his accent coming through all this stuff, too, I don't know, it makes it sound like it's like Count Orlok fucking groaning at you. You know, it's kind of perfect for Mayhem. So yeah, I gotta disagree. I think Attila's awesome.
I'm gonna have to go middle of the road, and that's simply because I just haven't listened to enough Mayhem. Y'all know my journey into black metal, and I kind of skipped over Mayhem, and I realized that Mayhem has an enormous, presence in black metal, and
both musically and criminally, of course.
Right, for both those things. But I've seen Lords of Chaos, which was a really fucked up movie, but I simply haven't listened to enough Mayhem to be able to give you yay or nay. Nick had me listen to De Mysteriis, and I liked that record, and once we hit the Mayhem ranking, which I'm sure will happen, I'm sure it will, because that's what we do here. Once we hit the Mayhem ranking, maybe I'll be able to give you a better look into what I think as far as vocalists are concerned. And we even saw Mayhem live at MDF, and they weren't bad.
And we saw Tormentor, too.
And Tormentor, yeah.
My God, that was, 2019?
I think so. And neither of those were bad. I just, again, haven't reached that part of my journey where I just openly will dive into bands that I should have dove into long ago. Just not there yet. So I gotta go middle of the road. Again, speaking of absolute honesty, next up, Cradle of Filth. First of all, I've never really liked this band to begin with. And I listened to some Cradle of Filth in high school, and even then I was like, nah. I think Danny Filth is a horrible vocalist. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Granted, I realize that there are tracks here and there throughout their career which aren't terrible, but I don't get it.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat here. Danny has a range, and sometimes it's good. Like, he's got like a good standard, like, mid-range, and the low roars are all right. It's those fucking baby screams.
Yeah, dude, no. Stop.
Jesus. They're
Why?
terrible. And he uses them with a lot of frequency, especially here lately. Like, you know those, like, stupid Bigfoot hunting shows that are on, like, the History Channel and shit? Like, that's the noises they hear at night. Like, oh, fuck, that's Mothman. We're on the wrong show. They're terrible. I hate them. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, like, musically, I don't think they're necessarily that bad. Like, it's really not my thing. But, you know, the music overall, it's still decent. It's just, why? Why those noises? Like, there's nothing catchy about them. I don't think I've even met a Cradle of Filth fan that said, dude, you know what I love about Cradle of Filth? The high-pitched baby shrieks. Those are fucking amazing. I don't know if that person exists. But, yeah, I strongly agree, dude.
I will agree on Danny Filth, mainly because of the baby squeals. Why do you do them?
I don't understand.
I don't get it. But everything else about him vocally is really good. Like, his standard black metal scream's pretty good. He even kind of does a little bit of that, like, Attila throat singing at times, and I think he does a solid job. His low, like, gothic cleans are pretty good. Even his death roars, I think, are very underrated.
His death roars are pretty good.
His death roars are very underrated. And musically, I think Cradle of Filth is a good band musically. It's just, get the baby squeals out of there, and it'd be a lot better off. That's the only thing that's kept me from being a bigger fan of them. I mean, I am going to be going over the new album when it comes out, just to say that, hey, I reviewed Cradle of Filth finally. And again, musically, I think they're good. You know, hybrid of gothic, black, death, symphonic. And I think musically it works. Baby squeals don't. Stop it.
Next up, and yeah, this one came with some great frequency, and I expected it because we even just went over their most recent album, Dream Theater. 100% agree. I have never been like the biggest James LaBrie fan, but to a point I would defend him as at least like a decent vocalist. Like his vocals on Awake, I think are really solid.
Yeah.
But I know he's suffered vocal damage over the years, and I have to say, like, probably the last album that I thought he sounded, you know, pretty good on might have been Metropolis, and then from there it's like, well, you're kind of losing steam up until, you know, this new one where I feel like a lot of vocal effects were used to kind of keep him sounding decent. Like, you notice he's not carrying on notes for very long. It's probably because he can't. Like, for a good chunk of his career, he's never been that great of a vocalist in terms of, like, matching up to this band. Because this band, I mean, yeah, gross levels of fucking talent in this band.
Amazing.
Like, you ask just about anyone, like, oh, who do you think is, like, the least talented person in Dream Theater? They're lying if they don't say it's James LaBrie. Sorry. But, yeah, I really think they should find someone else at this point. Like, yeah, I guess he's sort of a comfort zone for some longtime fans, but no, I'm kind of done with James LaBrie. I've been done with James LaBrie. Yeah. Especially now we got Portnoy back. Let's be extra done with James LaBrie.
Yes.
So, yeah, I agree.
I also agree. James LaBrie has been my least favorite part of Dream Theater since I got into Dream Theater. And I got into Dream Theater a long time ago. I don't remember when. I agree that his performance on Awake was pretty decent. Like, it's not bad. But musically, Dream Theater for me has always been about the music. It's another one of these bands where I wish I could just erase the vocals and just listen to the music. Because musically, I love Dream Theater. How can you not? But man, James LaBrie's vocals will always be vocals that I just can't get into. And furthermore, I don't know why. It's like the periphery thing. I don't know why you would put vocals like that over music like that. I don't get it. I don't like James LaBrie. I've never liked James LaBrie. The one song I think I can get into with him would be These Walls off of Octavarium. But beyond that, I don't like his vocals.
This is difficult for me because, well, I was torn between what I was going to say because, on one hand, I'm a big fan of James LaBrie's early stuff, like Images and Words, Awake, pretty much that era. I always thought he was great back then. But yeah, I will agree in recent years, especially if you see live clips.
Oh, God.
It's not pretty. It is not pretty. So, I guess I'll agree, even though I still have a soft spot for him in some way, shape, or form. But yeah. And now we're on to the bands that got the most votes, and we're talking 6+, so on and so forth. So these were the ones that got the most conversation. And the first one we're going to be talking about is Exodus, particularly Steve Zetro Sousa. Now, I'm going to say it, I'm personally going to disagree because when it comes to Exodus, aside from Paul Bailoff, he's always my guy, but between he and Rob Dukes, I kind of like Zetro's vocals a little bit more for the simple fact he just sounds like a maniacal Bon Scott a lot of times, and I'm a big Bon Scott fan myself, so to hear somebody try and do that in thrash, I always have found fun to listen to. But yeah, I will agree, like in recent years, he's getting even more maniacal, more gremlin-ish prior to his exit recently, which I'm sure there's going to be a lot of chatter about that. And that's no disrespect to Rob Dukes. I think Rob Dukes is good at what he does, and I do look forward to hearing how he sounds on whenever the next album comes out. But I'm going to disagree. Zetro's always been my guy when it came to Exodus vocals. Well, okay, Paul Bailoff, then Zetro. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
I agree that Zetro, I've never been a fan of his vocals. Actually, the most recent comment, I believe, was from our buddy Melty, who described Zetro's vocals as a combination of Linda Belcher and the Green Goblin. And that might be the most accurate description of his vocals.
Oh my god.
I've never been able to get into those like goblin cartoonish sort of growls. And it's weird because, you know, I figured with, you know, Zetro being brought up here, someone would say Bobby Blitz from Overkill.
Yeah.
Bobby Blitz didn't get mentioned once, which is awesome because I can't picture Overkill without Bobby's vocals.
Exactly.
But I can picture Exodus without Zetro's vocals. And honestly, I'm 100% behind Rob Dukes coming back. Exhibit B I thought was a fantastic album. He brings a more hardcore bite. And Paul Bailoff is on my favorite Exodus album. Dude, Bonded by Blood is perfect.
Right.
But yeah, Zetro, he made it really difficult to get into certain songs like this. Just constant snotty fucking delivery. I just can't. Like, hey, I wish him well on future endeavors and all, but I don't want him back in Exodus. That marriage is done, as Gary Holt said. And I'm 100% behind that.
I remember when we ranked Exodus, and I remember, first of all, being a giant Paul Bailoff fan. Bonded by Blood is perfect. Don't ever fuck with that record ever. But I remember my least favorite albums being the Zetro albums because why? It's another one of those why. Like, why are you doing that with your voice? Why? We don't need cartoon goblins. We don't need that. This is thrash. I don't know. I mean, he's not terrible, but he's not good. I'm behind the Rob Dukes thing too. Welcome home, Rob Dukes. You've been missed. Yeah, I'm just not a Zetro fan. Next up, and this had 7 votes according to the tally here, Megadeth. I'm gonna go ahead and agree. I am not a fan of Dave Mustaine's vocals as a whole. Just the whole like, I don't know, to me it just sounds really whiny, but like nasally whiny. Like Billy Corgan, but whining. And I don't get it. So I'm not a fan of Megadeth's vocals. I love the music, but I've never been a fan of Dave's vocals.
For me, I'm going to go undecided because there's a cutoff for me. Initially, I like a lot of the early vocals, like Peace Cells, Killing Is My Business.
Rest in peace.
Yeah. And honestly, I think one of his best vocal performances is probably on Countdown. But there is a cutoff, and that cutoff is probably after the system has failed. This is where his vocals really started to drop off. Like, I don't think he ever really took like good care of his vocals. Mm-hmm. That snotty delivery, though, that shitty asshole kid, you know, pretty much mouthing back at its parents sort of delivery, I grew to like that. Maybe because I was a shitty asshole kid. That might have had something to do with it.
And a shitty asshole adult.
Jury's not out on that.
Not getting any argument from me.
But I liked it. Like, it kind of gave, you know, this thrashy fucking awesome music even more attitude. Like, I don't know, something about like just a genuinely pissed off person that didn't sound like a fucking goblin. That worked for me. But again, here lately, I mean, yeah, his vocals are weathered, and even before like the throat cancer thing, they were dropping off. Like, you could definitely tell we're using a lot of studio magic to make them sound somewhat powerful. And honestly, like some of the live performances I've seen since, yeah, he's still struggling. Like, he's trying to use what he has left, but he doesn't have much left. And honestly, if Megadeth chose to get like a singer and just let Dave play guitar, which he's excellent at.
Yeah. Yep. I'm not
Yeah.
faulting Dave for his guitar playing at all.
Totally cool with that. But also, I'd like to say Megadeth needs to fucking start touring with bands that are worthy of Megadeth, because this touring with Five Finger, Death Punch, and Disturbed bullshit.
Stop.
Fuck that, dude.
Stop it.
Come on, dude. Dude, you're playing to a bunch of fucking undercover cops.
Yeah.
Dude, this is bullshit. But yeah, undecided on Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, I'm with Nick. I'm undecided because his delivery was kind of what gave Megadeth a bit of their identity early on, the fact that he sounded so pissed off. But yeah, I agree, especially over the last 10 plus years. Like, really, I would say my cutoff was after Endgame. Like, after Endgame, like, 13 was okay with his voice, and then after that, And I saw Megadeth live opening for Five Finger Death Punch. Why? But Megadeth put on a killer show, and Dave didn't sound terrible. He sounded alright for what he's capable of. But yeah, I'm going to go undecided just because I kind of like it. There are times where I'm like, why? But then there are times I'm like, fuck yeah! So, yeah, undecided.
Next up, and this was the second most mentioned one out of this entire post, and I'm really not super surprised, Knocked Loose, which I'm gonna kind of agree on here. Now, I've gotten kind of used to, Brian Garris's vocal delivery, but I will say with the last album, despite me really enjoying how just fucking bludgeoning heavy that album is, his vocals have gone up. And they shouldn't, because they're already up way too high. Like, I don't mind screamier vocals in terms of hardcore. I listen to tons of hardcore. But his is consistently way up there to the point where I'm begging for a break for, like, one of the other guys in the band to just growl. Just growl for a sustained period of time. I love Brian's energy. I feel like all of it is, like, very sincere, hateful fucking vitriol that he is spitting. But it's just up there too high. And yeah, I know a lot of people just don't like this band because of the vocals. Honestly, I think the band is awesome. And again, I like his energy, but enough of the arf arf. I'm good on that.
I will also agree. I like Knocked Loose musically. I think they're a very heavy band. I understand that, those higher screamed vocals have, again, their place in hardcore music. I listen to a lot of hardcore myself, but I don't understand it, man. Like, just drop a register. Because have you ever heard that dude talk?
Yeah.
He's got kind of like a mid-range voice. It sounds like he could go lower. And with music that heavy, I want to hear heavier vocals. And that's just not the case. It's too up there. And it annoys me. It annoys me to the point where I have a rough time listening to the music because his vocals just annoy me. And I don't think he's a bad dude. And no. I agree. He's got tons of energy. Like, you can tell that he means what he says in his hatred and things like that. Like, you can tell that he's pissed off. But he sounds like a pissed off teenager. And that takes away from it for me. So I will agree. Even though I like the band.
Honestly, I like the fact that this band has gotten more popular. I like the fact that they fucking played late night TV in front of a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, me too.
And it wasn't like just some like more like veteran act that's been around forever. It wasn't like Slipknot or like Lamb of God or anything like that. It was a young band that played some insanely heavy music, and you know what? If this is like a gateway band for a lot of fucking younger fans, I'm all for it.
Yeah, me too.
I just, again, drop it down just a little bit.
Just a smidge, man.
We're good.
Just not that. Just a little bit under that.
I have only listened to a tiny bit of Knocked Loose. And I will agree, the really high vocals, not for me when it comes to this kind of music. So, just going to leave it at that. And the final two, or really it's one guy, but two different bands. And, oh boy, I can already foresee the comments on this. Next up is King Diamond / Merciful Fate, particularly the man himself, King Diamond. Now, before these two say their shtick about this, and I'm going to flat out say they're both wrong, but that's just me. I love King Diamond. To me, in terms of the most unique metal vocalist of all time, he's arguably the front runner because he can do a lot of different things. Like, he can sound like an evil demon with his, like, "Nyah" delivery. And then, like, sometimes when he sings low, it's awesome. Or his standard cleans, I really, really like. You know, Melissa, Don't Break the Oath. Those are classics for a reason, not just musically, but even in the vocals. And then the King Diamond solo band, Fatal Portrait, Abigail, Them, The Eye, all fantastic. Partially because King Diamond's vocals are what gives any band he's in or creating its own identity. Yeah, the high falsettos, yeah, it's an acquired taste. It is an acquired taste, but I personally love him because I can't think of too many vocalists that can do it in the way that he does. Yes, you got your Halfords, your Bruces that can do it, but in the way King does it, where he just sounds like a ghost, and I love it for that reason. So I'm at a hard disagree with this. And now I'm going to let you hear these two shit all over him.
I am at an agree, but all right, here's the thing. I have tremendous respect for the King. Dude's awesome. He's a hell of a songwriter too. And in terms of his vocal range, there's just one aspect of it that I don't like. Like, his lower vocals are dramatic. Like, honestly, I would be all for, like, King portraying every Shakespearean villain ever in, like, a Shakespeare in the Park thing. I think it'd be awesome. But it's those high ones. Those high vocals, they're not always in key, and they sound campy. They sound goofy. I love the music in Merciful Fate, those first two albums in particular. Fucking amazing songwriting.
God tier albums.
And, you know, I haven't listened to a lot of King Diamond's solo stuff, just because at that point I had really decided, like, this dude's vocals really aren't for me. But he's always had talent around him. He knows how to write clever, catchy songs. It's just this one thing that he does that completely puts me off. Like, as soon as that note hits, I'm like, dude, I can't. And it sucks because that's the thing I think he gets known for the most. Like, I feel like he should be known more as, like, a solid songwriter, because he wrote a lot of the stuff in Merciful Fate and King Diamond. And again, his other vocal approaches, I think, are fine. Like, his theatrics are fucking amazing. Like, he has this presence, this aura. He's mythical. But he has the high register of some Muppet that I just can't. I can't do it. I'm sorry. Like, love you, King, but just if that register disappeared in your voice, I wouldn't miss it. I really wouldn't. Sorry.
I'm going to have to go agree, but again, only because of the high vocals. I admittedly haven't listened to much King Diamond or Merciful Fate, partially because in the beginning, when I first heard King Diamond, I was turned off by the higher register vocals. Now, Shredlord, whom you guys know and love, loves the absolute fuck out of King Diamond and Merciful Fate. And,
he will sing it.
And can hit those high notes, and it's amazing. I mean, he'll do it. He'll do it. In fact, I challenge you all to ask Shredlord to do a King Diamond impersonation, and he will hit those notes like nobody's business.
I want to see it.
But yeah, I admittedly haven't listened to much because of the high vocals that turned me off, and I realize, once again, this is another thing where I recognize King Diamond's presence in music and metal in general, and I know that he is, a trendsetter for his time, and I respect all that. And I respect all the music. I just didn't listen to it much because those high vocals, just for me, were an immediate, like, nope. Nope, not doing it. So I admittedly need to listen more, and I will state agree, but again, only because of the high vocals, and there's much more that I need to get into, and I will, because that's my job now. But I mean, like, yeah, it's a hard no on the high vocals. The rest of it sounds like I need to just dive into it, just because I need to dive into it. So
yeah.
That's where I'm standing.
Now, there were a couple on here that only got, like, one mention, but we wanted to go over at least some of the more spicy ones, because I forget who they said obituary, and that's a big no-no, because John Tardy is, like one of the best death metal vocalists of all time. I won't hear any other answer other than that.
Neither will I.
Yeah.
Like, stop, dude. I don't think you can get any better than John Tardy. I just don't. His theatrics is just to me, that's what death metal is supposed to be, are those vocals.
If you don't like John Tardy, I feel like you also don't like Chris Reifert, and I also have a problem with that, but he didn't get mentioned.
Or Martin Van Drunen.
Yeah.
Or Chuck.
Yeah. I mean, and neither one of those got mentioned. Someone else that got mentioned, though, was specifically Jeff Walker from Carcass, which again, another iconic delivery, at least in my opinion.
Eternal bleeding makes you rich.
I don't get that one either. I love Jeff Walker.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I love Carcass, and I love Jeff Walker, and I think his vocals are perfect for Carcass. And I don't get that one at all.
And then another one that I was immediately like, WTF, Candlemass, specifically Messiah Marcolin. To me, he epitomizes that style of doom in terms of vocals.
Yeah.
It's dramatic, it's bombastic, it fits perfectly with what Candlemass did on albums like Nightfall, Ancient Dreams, Tales of Creation, and those are like top tier doom metal albums.
And the vocals are so pretty. Like,
Absolutely.
Dude, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I can get where like someone's like his vibrato is just too over the top, and he's just constantly doing it, and it's floating around,
But that's what works.
but that's what works, at least in my opinion. I can kind of get that one. I'm more of a fan of Johann's vocals. I kind of like the gruffness, and that dude can croon really well. But I love Messiah. So, yeah, that one I thought was kind of a spicy take, too.
And then we have Macabre, lead vocalist Corporate Death.
I can't
picture Macabre without those vocals. Like, that's like a culmination of every death metal vocalist ever. And how can you say that's bad? Because it's literally everything all the time.
It's a ridiculous band about serial killers and shit. Like, I think it's supposed to be...
Yeah.
It's supposed to be silly.
Yep, it's supposed to sound dumb and stupid and great in that manner.
Oh, their riff works so goddamn good.
Mm-hmm.
And then another spicy one is High on Fire. I mean, we keep saying Matt Pike is this generation's Lemmy for a reason. He sounds similar to Lemmy, but in a sludgier, stonery sense.
The man sounds like he gargles a glass of, like, broken glass,
Mixed with
Cigarette
Jack
butts.
Daniels.
nails.
Yep.
Yeah, a little bit of gasoline.
Yeah.
And it's fucking
And it
awesome.
fits High on Fire to a T, guys.
Yep.
And
And one that I kind of agree now that someone made this comparison. Someone brought up Dimmaborger and said, dude sounds like Popeye.
oh, Shagroff.
He kind of does.
To a degree, yes.
I've been listening to Dimmaborger for years, and I honestly just went with he kind of sounds like the dude that played Wishmaster in Wishmaster. I'll grant you your wishes. But honestly, I could hear a more satanic Popeye now, and I don't know if that ruins it for me.
I think it actually makes it better, guys.
I don't know. Maybe it does.
Maybe it does.
But, I mean, I would have to agree. He kind of does sound like Popeye, at least there.
Great.
Wow.
Now I'm never going to be able to listen to...
Yeah, now you're thinking about it.
Now I'm
aren't you?
thinking about it. I'm going to have to turn on Popeye. I'm going to turn on Popeye on my TV and
just kind of
Yep.
get the...
and the music on a speaker and just see what happens.
Well,
I don't know.
it's only like the really harsh sections. It's not the it's good because he doesn't do that.
No.
'Cause if
But he could.
He probably
Now
could.
with that comparison, watch the next record, dude.
Be like satanic
If
mutterings.
we even get a
Yep.
next album.
So yeah, that is pretty much all we have time for here. A lot of interesting ones in here. This was a lot of fun to do too. It's good to have a collab here with a fellow YouTuber, and we're looking forward to doing some more interesting discussions in the future too, because we like doing these videos because it gives us a chance to just sit around and bullshit.
And of course, it's always good to come up here and visit every once in a while and get to collab with my bros here. As absolutely.
Oh shit!
Oh my god.
Leave that in. Why the hell not?
So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this
All the time.
Also, subscribe to this gentleman's channel, Thrashmaniac99, fellow Ohioan metalhead, tons of reviews, all sorts of cool stuff. But back here at Thralls Metal, we have memberships. They're only 99 cents, and our lone perk is doing a members-only live chat where we talk about whatever we talk about. I don't know. It just seems like we kind of just end up bullshitting, but we might have some themed ones in the future. Either way, the memberships are the main way to support the channel now. We still have our store, thrallsmetal.com, with our t-shirts and hats that is linked down below. And again, if you would like to become a member of this channel, there's a join button somewhere down here.
It's there, I promise.
It
You can
is.
either hit it, you don't have to hit it. We just do this because we appreciate you guys. Tons of stuff going on at Thralls Metal, album reviews, discography rankings. Gonna have the Gates coming up next, which is gonna be super fun. tons of discussion forums, things like this. Things like what we just did. States of Metal, is it metal, is it not metal? Nick's never-ending collection updates. Stuff coming out of my camp. Stuff coming all the time, because that's what we do here at Thralls of Metal. Just tons of stuff. We do it for you guys because we appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for paying attention, for commenting, for doing all the things you do. We love you guys.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule. Tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because of all your rulage. And we will catch you later.